This is interesting, too. Let me give you two headlines here side by side. Over on Yahoo News, this is from, I think, it's Saturday, so it's a weekend story. Clinton's support slides ahead of first Democrat debate. Just days before she will take the stage in the first Democrat debate, Hillary Clinton's lead over Bernie Sanders has narrowed. Her support among Democrat voters fell 10 points within less than a week. She is literally plummeting in poll after poll after poll. This story has shown, it's a Reuters story, but if it's at Yahoo News, that's where the low information crowd picks it up. And I just as an aside, NBC News must just be really disappointed after all they did for Hillary during the week. Did you hear what the comedian Amy Schumer, who hosted Saturday Night Live, openly said how disappointed and frustrated she was that during the show, whenever Hillary's name came up or whenever Hillary was impersonated or whatever just included in the show, that there was hardly any applause for, and she was upset by that? She was embarrassed. She was upset that there wasn't more support for Hillary in the Saturday Night Live audience. And I'm saying NBC overall's got to be somewhat disturbed, too. I mean, they've pulled out all the stops trying to save Hillary, trying to help Hillary, trying to make Hillary look human, trying to make her look like she's something other than a robot. Had that Saturday Night Live appearance. Anyway, here's Reuters. Clinton support slides ahead of first Democrat debate. Over here at the New York Times, the headline is, from Donald Trump, hints of a campaign exit strategy. Trump's numbers continue to rise. Trump's numbers once again are rising. One of the untold stories of recent Republican polling is that Carly Fiorina has now dipped to below double digits. The only two in double digits remain Trump and Ben Carson, who, by the way, is enmeshed in his own silly controversy. You know what Ben Carson had the temerity to say? He said the Jews had had guns, that the Holocaust might have turned out differently. And people are reacting to that like it's the most insane, ludicrous thing anybody's ever said. You know, and I'm wondering, have people forgotten what happened in Warsaw when the Jews were summarily overtaken? Ben Carson's exactly right, but it's not. It's more profound. It's that these people are treating his comment as absolutely sophomoric. And he's so out of touch, so unprepared, so unqualified. What kind of an idiot would say anything like this? And yet all he did was utter blatant common sense. It stands to reason that had the Jews been armed, the Nazis would have had a little bit more trouble. They would have had some resistance. It's common sense. The reason I think the left is in the media is going nuts is because they're taking that comment and they're transposing it into the current climate of the American debate on guns. And they're thinking, what would Jews today want guns for? Jews don't need it. It's silly. Carson's a nutcase. And they're invoking, you never invoke Hitler. You don't bring Hitler up. You just don't do it. That's political neophyte stuff. But on the facts, Carson's exactly right. Anyway, my point here is Donald Trump is either holding steady or back to gaining ground. He is undergoing a bit of a transformation on the stump now, too. That is one of a little bit more substance, discussion of issues. Some of the theatrics have been dialed back. They're still there. And his support is becoming more solid and broad-based. And yet the New York Times has this story, hints of a campaign exit strategy, despite the fact that Trump said he's not going anywhere. Trump has said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not getting out. Why are you even asking me this? I'm not the guy down 10 points. I'm not the guy that ought to be indicted. You're asking the wrong person. I'm not getting out. And yet there they are. in unmistakable ways over the last 2 weeks, whether he has intended to or not. Donald J. Trump has started to articulate a way out of the presidential race, a verbal parachute that makes clear he has contemplated the factors that would cause him to end his bid. Now, never mind that for a week, Trump has insisted the drive-bys are mistaken and that he has no exit strategy whatsoever. Never mind that, as John Heilemann at Bloomberg said on MSNBC 3 days ago, if Jeb Bush had Trump's numbers, everybody would declare the race over. Nobody would be talking about an exit strategy if these were Jeb Bush's numbers. Nobody is talking about an exit strategy except the drive-bys, who have it in their, I guess, in their guts that Trump has never been serious. He isn't serious. All of this is for a reason that we don't know yet, but he's never intended to win this. He's never intended to stay in it all the way. He's never intended to get the nomination. And so they've talked themselves into believing that Trump is in the middle of some kind of stunt here. They haven't quite figured out what it is, but at some point he's going to get out. So that becomes the narrative, if you will, or the template around which the coverage of Trump is written and broadcast. So now, even though Trump has not said a word about getting out, they think they've heard him say so. Meanwhile, over here, you have Hillary Rodham Clinton, who is just shedding support. It is just abandoning her in droves. And not a single story about the possibility that Mrs. Clinton might get out of the race. And the drive-bys believe they're fooling everybody. That's the funny thing about this. You know, there has been so much education about the drive-bys. So many people much more informed about them than ever. It's not a majority yet. But if you take a look at polling data on respected professions and respected people in those professions, people in journalism are just not near the bottom. They're in the tank in terms of respect. And other indications of polling data that people don't believe what they hear and so forth. Still, they wield a lot of power, so I'm not under any illusions here. But it's amazing to watch them operate as though it's 40 years ago and they're still pulling the wool over everybody's eyes.